Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Wednesday flash briefing. I'm Workman, Big V, and I am excited. No, I'm not excited. I'm fired up, I'm humbled, and I'm grateful to have our next guest with us. We have, all the way from Tulsa, Oklahoma, the awesome Paul Wheeler. Paul, welcome, and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Verl. It's always a pleasure. I always enjoy our conversations, and I think today's topic will add a lot of value to our listeners.
So there's no question it's going to add a lot of value. We're going to talk about profitability today. But before we get into that, let's just kind of share with the audience who Paul Wheeler is. Tell us a little about where you're from and Tulsa, Oklahoma, a little about your family.
So first and foremost, I'm a dad, and I do live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Proud dad of three. The only thing better than being a dad of three is marrying my wife. And so we are blessed here in a very affordable market. As you once said, man, Paul, you have to sell a lot of homes to be profitable. And it's so true, but it's a great place to raise a family. And we just really enjoy living here.
So how old are your kids now?
So they are 13, 15, and 17. So a senior in high school, a sophomore, and an eighth grader. Really great ages.
That's fun. I encourage you as you join the Facebook Live today to say hello to Paul. Let him know where you're from. If you have any questions as we get into our topic, just type them in the comments. I'm monitoring and watching it, and I'll do my best to make sure we get all of your questions in here. So your kids are at the ages where they're becoming little people.
They are. Yeah, the conversations are definitely interesting.
You know, we've had a few conversations about you coming out to ski in Salt Lake. Is that going to happen anytime soon?
You know, as soon as it's safe, it will. I cannot wait to ski with you. In fact, it's my favorite hobby of all time, and all the kids ski and ski well. So it is still on the calendar at some point.
So all of our Utah resorts are opening. Nice. And they all have new COVID plans. They're limiting the number of people on the hill. They have there's no more. You can't buy tickets at the window. You have to make reservations, and so they've got a whole program to be able to create a safe environment for people to be able to enjoy the outside, which I think they should.
Yeah, I agree. It's a new world.
And so tell us a little bit about your real estate company and your team.
All right. Before I forget too, Verl, at the end of our session, I'll give everyone access to kind of the outline and the strategies I talk about today. So you can take notes if you want, but you don't need to. So our team, I've been in business 27 years, and actually I should probably, since we're talking about profitability, let me give you and our listeners some perspective and tell you a little bit about the team as well. So yeah. I started 27 years ago with this big vision of building massive wealth in the first half of my life and giving away a bunch of money in the second half of my life. So at the time I was working a full-time job like many of us do, and I was going to college. So I was sleeping about 4 hours a night, and I was paying my own way through college. And after a few months, I did the only intelligent thing I could think of, and it was quit my full-time good paying job because I had made a few sales. So I worked really, really hard that first year, and got to the end of the year and found an accountant and asked him to do my taxes. And a few weeks later, they called me back and said, okay, do you want the good news or the bad news? I said, well, the good news, of course. And he said, you know, Paul, you made $32,000. And my first thought was, you know, that's pretty good for a college kid. And I said, well, what's the bad news? And he said, well, you spent $32,000. So I had worked the whole year and hadn't made a dime. And the worst part about it was I didn't even know. I was so clueless. So I was off to a great start on my real estate career and my lifelong entrepreneurial adventure. So today we're doing much better after I've made every single mistake that I could ever possibly make with financials, which is why I think you have me on this this Facebook Live and this topic. Thank you very much. And so we're doing much better. We have a small team here, a listing partner, and a few buyer specialists, and generally we do between 150 and 250 transactions each year. We have property management and multiple LLCs for investment portfolios. So it's been a fun ride. but it's turned out a lot different than that first year based on the lessons I learned.
It's really cool. And by the way, Dano from Maui says aloha to you. And
Hey, Dano.
Dano's the new owner of Coldwell Banker Island Properties in Maui. So congratulations to him and his new chapter in his life. He's got cool things that are happening right there. You got a few fans out there. John Miller says Paul Wheeler's a rock star. So your raving fans out there are piping in. One of the things that I think is really cool is when I started first coaching you, I remember having the interview with you talking about whether or not you needed a coach. And I specifically remember this conversation because I always dig and I want to find out what is it about this person that makes them want to spend that much money to coach with somebody like me. Why would you do that? And I started asking about what your sales were, what your buyer's agents did, what your listing partners did, how much business was yours. And then we got to profitability. And you said something to me that I never forgotten. That was that I don't need to work, that I built wealth in the early stages of my career. I'm at a place today where I don't have to sell any houses, but I do it because I want to give more away and I want to teach other people how to build wealth. And that to me is a true a testament to your character. It's that you wanted to hire a coach so you could do a better job giving more money away. And I just have a lot of respect for you and for what you've done in your life and what you've been able to amass. I love that you have a program that you offer to others that's all about giving. Tell me a little bit about what that's called.
So are you talking about servant heart selling?
Servant heart selling.
Yeah, that's a fun side business, I guess. It's getting to be not so much of a side business. So it's teaching people to serve our clients. And you say this really well, Burl, service before opportunity. It's a whole nother way of selling. In the old ABCs, when I first started 27 years ago, and I see them still to this day, are always be closing. And I believe they should always be connecting and always be contributing. And when you serve like that, when you sell like that, when you focus on other people like that, you just accomplish so much more. And the relationships go way deeper. And as we get older, we know that's really what it's all about anyway.
And so for you as a business owner and as a father, I'd like to know how you measure success. What are the measuring sticks that you use in your business and in your life to say, you know what, this was a good year?
So I always go back to the kids. If the kids are doing well and they're growing up to be happy, healthy, productive adults, I'm really, really excited. When I first held my first child, it was the first kid I'd ever held. And a good friend of mine told me, he said, Paul, that kid is going to be that age for that moment in time. Don't miss it. So all of my priorities changed. I knew I was onto something big. And so I structured my life in a way that I got to spend a lot of time with the family. It's just been the most amazing experience of my life. So that's how I measure success. The other way is how well I can serve our team. And then of course, how well we can serve our clients. So I think, instead of, how much money we make anymore, which is important because a business's purpose is to make a profit, is how well we serve those clients. And the satisfaction surveys that we get and just those comments of, that was the best experience I've ever had in real estate, and we trust you, just tell us what to do. I really like that comment or feedback as from someone that's doing business with us. So.
I love that. All right. So I just kind of want to get into it. Let's talk about profitability. A lot of broker owners like yourself that run their brokerages as a team. I would say that they struggle to be successful without their own personal production. And so they start a brokerage thinking that, I'm going to be the broker owner and I'm going to put my name on a sign. And then all of a sudden they realize that if they're not out selling houses, their brokerage isn't profitable. You created a portfolio of real estate property. So what shifted for you from going from, I want to be a really great realtor to I want to build wealth? And how did you start doing it? And are you still doing it today?
Yeah, that's a great question, Burl. I actually had that focus in the beginning. So from the start, my focus was on building wealth so I could make a bigger impact in the world around me. And then I found real estate as a great vehicle for that, or at least I thought it was until the end of the first year when I hadn't made any money. And another part of that story was funny. I got to the end of the year and hadn't made a dime and was clueless. But luckily, I had done the only other sensible thing, and I had financed my life and my business on a stack of credit cards that tall. So I was really upside down and making every mistake you could ever make. But I knew there was a way, and if I learned about profitability, I could make real estate a great vehicle for building that wealth. That makes sense.
Yeah. So you're selling houses. When did you I'm going to go buy a house? Like, when did you have that? What was the shift?
I did that before I even got into the business. So that's when when I was in college, I invested in real estate, and I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur from age 11. And I think you've heard that story. It's really interesting. But then once I started building that real estate portfolio that is massive now, I thought to myself, if I can build this real estate portfolio and be in real estate, I think that would be a good pairing in building that wealth. And that's how it ended up. So I did both over the years.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So you came in that way. You came in thinking, I'm going to buy real estate. A lot of agents don't realize that when they give investment advice to their clients, they should be listening to it.
They should.
If you say to someone, it's a really good deal, you should buy it, and they don't, and neither do you,
right,
you probably shouldn't be giving that advice.
That's true. So here's the problem that I see in real estate, though. Most people, well, after my first year, I thought maybe it was real estate in general, and maybe it was my mistakes. And what I learned over time is I think most business owners, and so not even just realtors, struggle with profitability. And we all get into a survival trap of grow, spend, sell, and we focus on working harder in hopes that better profit will come in the future. But profitability, I found, is a habit. It's not an event. And putting our nose to the grindstone's an easy way to cover up for an unhealthy business. And what I did back then is bank balance accounting. We'd look at our bank balance and we'd say, okay, we have money and let's go spend it. And that's what we do as humans. And we'd live check to check and panic to panic. And the problem with what we do in real estate too is we don't know our numbers, and we're slaves to our business instead of our businesses serving us. And again, I understand this. I went through all of this. I feel your pain. I've been there and done that. But I think, well, today, what I like to simplify stuff and make it so it's easy to apply to your business. So today, I'll take all of my lessons and give our listeners 3 simple strategies that you can implement to get profitable quickly or get more profitable and stay profitable.
Let's do it.
So I'm really excited about sharing that.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So, before we talk about profitability, it's kind of interesting. We should probably talk about the elephant in the room. And that is, we have to be comfortable talking about money. We've been taught since we were kids not to talk about money, politics, and religion. And money can be embarrassing, and it can be an emotional topic for some. I've found that we have to be transparent and open to ask for help, to get the guidance and education and wisdom we need. We have to face our financials head on. And so many times we just put our heads in the sand. And what I've learned is money doesn't determine our worth or value as human beings. It is just a tool that gives us options. It does remind me of a time I was being coached way before you, Verl, and I had made one of my many mistakes and was losing money for a few months. And my coach, I didn't tell my coach. And my coach found out later, and he was shocked that I hadn't shared that I was losing money while he was coaching me. And I thought to myself, well, you don't talk about money. So we have to be able to talk about money if we're going to get better at profitability. So the first strategy that we want to focus on is stop focusing on how big our business is and start focusing on how healthy our business is. Every reward or award in real estate is based on top line revenue or number of transactions. Isn't that weird? Nobody says a thing about profitability. Our business's purpose is to earn a profit, like we said before, and to serve us, not to show off. We need to know our numbers and what they should be for a healthy business. Most of us focus on selling and growing to cover our ever increasing list of expenses, and profits kind of an afterthought. Our motto is grow, 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 and we don't have any focus on profitability. We hope that if we work hard enough, profit will come, but it rarely does. So it's interesting, and I see this cycle time and time again in real estate as we coach people too. So, what are reasonable profits in the real estate business? Some general guidelines, and we've talked about this before, Verl. Some general guidelines are: if you have a team, 40% plus of your adjusted gross income should be profit. So after you pay your sales team members, or 25% of total GCI for a team or more, okay? For an individual agent, it's much higher. 70+% of your income should be profit because you have less expenses, but you also have no leverage. Marketing expense should be around 10%. Now, I've had it as high as 25%, which is just not healthy. And I've had it as low, currently it's about 6 to 7%. If you have a team, payroll expenses should be around 12%. Understanding lead and lag indicators is really an important part of knowing our financials and knowing our numbers. And for those of you that don't know what the difference is between lead and lag indicators, my tax return at the end of the year in my first year was a lag indicator. We look at it months later and say, how do we do? Even a monthly P&L is a lag indicator. And my favorite snapshot numbers for my business are the lead indicators. I need to know every single day, if I'm focused on profitability, how my business is doing. And they give me an instant assessment. So one of those numbers I look at is daily income. So I'll give you an example. If my goal, to make it simple, is $30,000 a month, I know that that's about $1,000 a day in a 30-month cycle. So at the 10th, I should have pended about $10,000 in commission incomes. If I've pended more than that, I'm ahead of my goal. If I haven't pended any or pended less, then I know I have some work to do. Another leading indicator is total pending dollar. And let's keep it simple again. If we have a revolving closing process of about 30 days, we know we should always have $30,000 in pending commissions in our funnel. And if we're above that, we're doing well financially. If we're below that, we have work to do. Another one is total pending sales. So to keep it simple, let's say our average is $6,000 per sale for a commission. And so 6 times 5 would be 30. So we should have 5 pending contracts in the pipeline at all times if our closing cycle is 30 days. So those numbers and looking at those every day keep me abreast of how I'm doing on a daily basis versus waiting for the year-end tax return. So I don't get surprised as much anymore. And the last one we need to remember too, Verl, is cash reserves, because a rainy day will always come, a black swan. There's always going to be a business interrupter. COVID is, a great example. We need 3 to 6 months of cash reserves to keep our business running in case something stops. Everything stops, no sales come in. We've got the cash reserves to figure it out. So the first strategy is to stop focusing on the size of our business and focus on the health of our business and knowing your numbers. Any thoughts on that, Verl?
So yeah, I have a whole bunch of thoughts. One is when you told the story about meeting after your first year in the business and you'd done 30 plus thousand and your accountant said to you good news and bad. I thought the bad news was going to be you owe 15,000 in taxes and you hadn't saved up any, because that's what I hear that a lot from real estate agents, right? They don't pay
I've done that.
And then they have to spend the next 5 years paying it back at 700% interest or whatever the IRS feels like they can get away with charging. Their predatory lending laws are crazy. And then, so that was my first thought. And then the second thought I had when you talked about profitability was, stop thinking about how big you are and start thinking about how healthy you are. And boy, doesn't that apply to a lot of areas in our life? If I didn't focus on my weight and I focused on my health, the weight would take care of itself.
It would.
That principle applied to business is so solid. We have all these big hairy goals of accomplishing great things in our business. And what we should have is health goals. And what are the health goals, or what are those leading indicators that are going to allow us to have the growth that we want? So good perspective. And it's a different perspective. Julie Timms tells you, thank you for the great information. And it's all really good. Ron Howard says you're providing great sage advice. So yeah, good people that are actually well respected, giving you appreciation for the thoughts that you're giving. So what's the second concept?
All right. So the second strategy is to turn GAAP upside down. GAAP is the generally accepted accounting principles. And speaking of financials and accounting, it's not a fun topic, but we need to get educated. If we're going to run a business, we need to understand how to read a P&L, a balance sheet, and a cash flow statement. We need to have them readily available.
Sure.
So how do you turn GAAP upside down? So traditionally, it's been income minus expenses equals profit. What if we said income minus profit equals expenses? Again, our business's purpose is to serve us and to earn a profit. Put your focus on that. And so what happens if you don't have enough left over for your expenses? Your business is screaming at you and telling you they're too high. There's a great book out there by Mike Michalowicz called Profit First. It is my favorite book on a lot of these systems and maintaining profitability. And Mike says when you're waiting for profit leftovers, you'll get scraps. He says GAAP makes sense, makes logical sense. Sell as much as you can and spend as little as you can and pocket the difference, but it doesn't make human sense. We focus on growing and selling more and more, and expenses kind of get lost in the wash, and we just pay as we go. And the cash eating monster, he calls it, called our business, gets out of hand. More employees, more everything, more empty bank accounts and bigger loans and ever increasing list of must pay expenses. I've been there and done all that as well. Human nature is kind of interesting. It will always find a way to spend all of our money. So pay yourself first. So the first strategy is focus on how healthy your business is. And the second strategy is to turn GAAP upside down by putting profit first. Thoughts on that, Verl?
Yeah, so I'm trying to get it in my mind. So I'm thinking about, so what you're saying is, so let me repeat it so I understand it, is you go out and sell like crazy because that's what we do. And then you pay yourself the profit first of a predetermined amount that you're saying, I'm going to make this is my predetermined profit, and then pay your expenses. And so by paying yourself first, then it allows you to control the expenses because you're not going to be able to pay yourself if you don't do the expenses. So instead of picking up what's left, you're saying take your profit out first. It's a really different way of looking at the business. I have to get my mind around it. Julie Timms is going, wait a second. I've always done GAAP accounting.
Me too.
And it's a different way of thinking about it, but I think it's really smart. I teach my kids that you first, pay your savings, first pay your tithing, then pay your savings, then pay your bills. And if you take out those two things first, you'll always have enough to pay your bills. But if you don't, then you'll always struggle paying you're paying the two things that are the most important.
That's exactly it. Yep. Now to make this work, it requires the third strategy.
Okay.
And that is the bucket system, which you guys teach at Workman Success Systems. It's powerful. And a bucket system is, they're designated categories for where to put your money as it comes in. And I used to think that you just needed to get more enjoyment out of saving money than spending it. And I'm blessed to have that quirk about my personality. I do. I love building wealth, and that's why I've been successful at it, because I got more enjoyment out of that than spending. I still don't spend any money. I would, I tell everybody I'd be naked if it wasn't for my wife, because she, helps me buy the clothes, and she puts a nice, roof over our head. But I don't need stuff. I love saving money. So, and it's interesting too. One of the things that I think made me like that is I saw my parents go through bankruptcy when I was a kid, and I swore to myself I would never be in that situation where I wouldn't be able to pay my bills. So, and then I realized again, human nature is generally going to make us spend everything we take in. So even I set up the buckets, and I didn't think I needed them, but they do help. They really do. A great example of a bucket system is retirement accounts. And they do it perfectly. So they take it out of your check before you even see it. And then they penalize you heavily if you take that money and use it for anything else. And that's a great bucket system. Even with that system in place, so many of us struggle to save for retirement. So it's not perfect, but it's a better system than not having buckets. So the question I usually get is, all right, what buckets do we need in a business, whether it's real estate or any other business? Since we're talking about profit, we probably need a profit bucket, and take that money right off the top and put it in that bucket. We need to have owner's compensation. Guys, we're doing an important job. We deserve to get paid for our effort and our work. If we got another job, we'd get paid. So we can't make that last on the list. We deserve to be compensated for our work. Taxes, Burl, you mentioned, really, really important. I have gotten to the end of the year and owed a big tax bill because I didn't have that bucket and I didn't plan for it. And that's really discouraging when you've got a pile of cash and then you just have to give it to the government without that plan in place. Operating expenses, we still need a bucket for that. And to contain it better, a bucket is a good system. So we know how much should be in there and what our limits are. And then finally, cash reserves. But the bucket system's great. The key to making it work is using percentages. So what I found is everything is relative. $1 million company netting $500,000 is kicking butt. A $50 million company netting $500,000 is in real trouble. One bad day and they're bankrupt. So as an example, I shared earlier, profit plus owner's pay percentage for a team would be 40+% of adjusted gross income after sales team members are paid, or 25% plus of total GCI. Profit plus owner's pay bucket for a single agent would be 70+%. Taxes for a team, that bucket, we do 15%. It depends on your tax bracket, of course, and then your level of expenses is going to be higher for an individual agent that doesn't have as many expenses. But to give you an example of how it works, so if we did the total GCI of 25% and 15% for taxes, total profit and owner's pay of 25% and 15% for taxes, that's 40%. So that leaves 60% for operating expenses. So you can't, once you pay yourself, you need to live within those limits of that operating expenses bucket. So again, remember, our business is to serve us. Don't neglect profit and owner's pay. You're not an indentured servant to your business. It's there to serve you. So another question I get, Burl, is what do we do with our profit? Over the years, you know me, I've bought real estate with it and have built a great portfolio. But in the book, that Mike wrote, the Profit First, he said quarterly distribution of profits is really, really key. We need to celebrate. We've worked hard, and his recommendation is to share 50% of our profit bucket, or to spend 50% of our profit bucket and celebrate. There's a little bit in there, go out to dinner. There's a lot in there, take a great vacation or buy a big ticket item that you've been wanting. He said the key is not rolling it back into your business. We have to celebrate our progress. Use the other 50% to grow your business, because as we shared earlier, Burl, growing and profitability is important. So if we're just profitable but we never grow, it doesn't work over the long haul. So if you don't have a rainy day fund, use the 50% left in the account to start building that. You want to have that 3 to 6 months of cash reserves. And if you're in a situation like I know a lot of people are, they've built up debt over the years, use 90% of the profit bucket and pay down debt and celebrate with 10% until you get that debt eliminated. Debt'll kill you. And the thing I love about this system is it's so simple, and if implemented correctly, will make you profitable quickly, if not instantly, and keep you profitable because of the percentages. And again, that's why we're in business. All that makes sense?
It totally makes sense. It reminds me of a story of my mom. And when I was little, Paul, my dad was a school teacher, and he was disabled when I was 11 years old. My mom had 7 kids, and she was a stay-at-home mom. And I remember sitting at the kitchen table with her probably a year after my dad he'd been in the hospital for a year. He'd had an aneurysm, and it didn't look like he was going to come home. And I remember her sitting at the table, and she had a bunch of envelopes, white envelopes. And she was taking cash and writing on the outside of each envelope, school lunch, kids' shoes, groceries. There was nothing for her. It was all just, and then she would take the little bit of money that she had and she would cash it, and then she would put it in these envelopes or the buckets. Yep. And if there was no money in that bucket, you didn't get it. There was no more school lunch. Right. The other thing I remember her doing, and this, like to this day, it's a vivid memory, like a clear childhood memory, is my mom sitting at that table with credit cards and scissors and cutting them up and saying, we can never be in debt again, because my dad had debt, and he had just been to school and all these things. And she said, if we're going to survive as a family, we have to live within these envelopes, and we can never borrow money. And I watched my mom raise 7 kids with very little income, church welfare and a little bit of military from my dad's service in the Marine Corps. And it was really cool to watch. And I've never really thought about her envelopes as the same as the buckets, but isn't that what it is?
That's exactly what it is. Your mom is a smart woman. So yeah, the bucket system's been around forever, and it's powerful. It just helps you work within your needs and your ability, and counteracts normal human behavior, which is put it all in one bucket and just start spending, and you'll run out of money every single time. Human nature says we spend it all.
Yeah. So it's really cool that we get to work with you. It's kind of fun that you have this great financial background, but then you choose to be a Workman coach. Why do you coach other people, and what kind of benefit do you get out of that? What's in it for you?
That's a great question.
I know I can't pay you enough.
So I probably shouldn't mention this again, but when Burl asked me to coach, I didn't know there was pay involved, and I just jumped in and said, absolutely. And then I found out there was pay, which was even better.
I get paid?
So one of my joys in life, well, the first is my family. The second is my family at work. I love my team, and they have been with me through thick and thin, years and years and years. So I love serving them, and I know in order to serve them, because they're smart and they're growing as fast as I am, I need to continually be a better leader. So I knew coaching would help me become a better team leader, and that's why I do it.
And what kind of an impact has it had on you and your team?
I think it's very, very positive. Every week when I teach, and a teacher is always the best student, I take what I share and I get just as much back from our coaching clients who are amazing, by the way. And I learn from them and I take it back to the team. So we all benefit. We really do when we share and we give.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Tammy Slay says that's such wise counsel and gives you a couple of thumbs up and a heart. So I don't know what that means, Paul, but you got Tammy Slay love.
Yeah, well, tell her she's where I learned it.
All right. So what's next for you? So what do you see yourself doing just from a growth perspective over the next 5 years?
So I'm going to give the team the business. And I'll be doing it for as long as I keep loving it. And my wife says, you'll never retire. I really do love serving our clients and serving our team. So my goal for the business and for the team is to make it as healthy and viable and productive as I possibly can so they can achieve all of their goals in their lives, their personal lives, their business lives. And so that's my focus. So we're doing everything we can to serve the team to help them reach their goals.
So I think that's really cool. So when I think about how you started the conversation today and I say, introduce yourself, you say, well, first of all, I'm a dad. And that's how I measure my success is by, the impact I'm having on my kids. And second, I'm a husband. And that was your greatest sales job because you're able to talk a pretty exceptional lady into marrying you.
Yeah, I married up.
And so I think that's really cool. But the last thing is that when you say I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a team leader, I'm a coach. But the impactful one, the thing we've talked about today is you can just add to that, and I'm profitable. Because a lot of people don't believe that you can have that kind of balance. They believe in order to have massive income or massive profits, that you have to do it at the sacrifice of your relationships with your spouse and your kids or your faith.
No, you don't. So in January, when we were at Leverage, you cornered me and made me commit, if you remember this conversation, to present on profitability. You remember what the other one was? Balance. Yep. Yeah. I didn't figure you'd forget. So before the end of the year, we should do a Facebook Live on balance because that's my superpower. So I think I'm even better at that than profitability. And I would love to share some of my secrets that I've been able to learn over the last, at least 17 years with kids.
So it's so fun. It's so fun to have someone that's selling over 100 houses a year say that their superpower is life balance. It's that I enjoy my life with my kids. And I mean, it is pretty rare that I talk to you. How has COVID affected your balance? Are you spending less time because you're not traveling? You're not doing epic vacations like you always do with your kids.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And I've loved the quality time. It has been fantastic. And just spending, even if it's at home, with the family. But I probably shouldn't tell you this, but we snuck off to Disney World because we heard not only, and that was last weekend, not only that it was the happiest place on earth, but it's the safest place now. So Brad Carroll with Dacno Marketing said, we went down there and there's a ghost town. He was right. It was crazy. And they're doing everything they can to make it safe. But you're also right. We were supposed to go to Egypt this summer. We usually travel 8 weeks a year, and all that got shut down. And so as we learn more about COVID and learn how to be safe, we'll, of course, get back to traveling more. But I still get the quality time with my family.
I want to know how you talked your physician wife into going to Disney World in the middle of a pandemic. I need to hear those skills.
She's a Disney fanatic, but she also did the research and said, by George, I think you're right. I mean, look what they're doing. There's nobody there. And so we planned it 4 days before we left. She did. So it was a neat experience.
I think there's a lot of people watching this right now thinking, okay, all right, we got this. If Paul and his wife can go.
That's right. Yeah. So, we've done the motorhome and isolated ourselves there. So there are ways to do it. So we've got lots of plans, but we just need to know how to execute them safely. So.
Yeah, that's fun. So what advice would you give to a team leader today that is starting a team or trying to figure out the fastest way to profitability? Like I'm already in the business. I already have a team. I'm not feeling profitable. What's the fastest way?
So I stand by my recommendation of these three strategies and reading that book, Profit First. It's huge. What I might do is share some of the common mistakes that I see in
Okay.
profitability. One of the biggest mistakes I see is when we get into that grow, sell, grow, spend cycle, and we use our best months of income and raise our expenses accordingly. And we need to base everything on our slowest months to get good percentages. So, for example, if your three slowest months produce $50,000 in income, you want to base your percentages on that income, not your three highest months, which might be $100,000 in income. So if you, let's say we use $50,000 for our average on the slow months, 25% of that for owner's pay, if we use the total GCI method, would put us at 12.5. And in taxes, remember, we've got to have that tax bucket, would be 15%, would put us at 7,500. So that leaves $30,000 max for operating expenses. So you should be running, if your slowest 3 months are 50,000, you should be running a business that maxes at $30,000 in operating expenses. If you have you're going to have a smaller profit, but when you hit your big months, so the $100,000 months, and you have $30,000 in expenses, that's a nice profitable month.
Well,
So
it's
do
magic.
not go ahead.
Well, it's just magic.
Yeah, but you're profitable all the time. So do not raise your expenses on your big months. Another mistake that I see is going too big with your percentages too fast. So if you've never had a profit, start at 1%. If you've been at 5% or 10%, just raise it by 1%, and you're going to learn, and you'll start to get the rhythm of your business and the rhythm of your money coming in. So don't start too fast. Another mistake that I see is plowing all of our money back into our business. It's there to serve us. Take the money, take the profit, and celebrate with quarterly distributions. One of the biggest mistakes I see is raiding the tax account or not setting one up. I say, danger, Will Robinson, danger. You are not going to get away with that. I sold a house recently, and he was a business owner that had gone out of business, and he had a $400,000 tax lien on his house for unpaid taxes. It's just scary. So set aside that tax bucket and do not touch it. It's the government's money.
Yeah, I have to have somebody take money and just set it aside, not even tell me it's there. If I don't know it's there, I don't think about spending it, because I'm the ultimate entrepreneur, where I think I can sell my way out of any situation. Right. And so, I don't save. So I have to have people on my team that make me more disciplined than I would be by myself.
Yeah, and there are little tricks too that Mike talks about in his book. It's funny. We have our profit accounts and tax accounts in another bank with no checking privileges, no nothing. I mean, you just can't get to it. So it just builds up, and it's building up, and it works. One of the other big mistakes I see too is we pay ourselves last, and we never take a salary. And
right.
Most small business owners, or business owners in general, never take a salary even close to what they're worth based on the work they're doing. So your family deserves better. Take that salary or that profit first. And one of the last things I see is racking up debt. We rack up debt in hopes of a big payout in the future, and which will most likely never come, especially if you have debt. So don't do that. Actually, one other thing I see people do, and it's called the loss aversion effect. We won't cut expenses, and we all do this, even I do. To get financially healthy, if you've been living beyond your means, and you can't afford the trappings of your lifestyle that you're living right now, you have to cut your expenses. Otherwise, you're going to go bankrupt. And that's what people do. They get a hold of stuff. I've got this nice house. I have this nice car. I can't give it up. Yes, you can. You have to. So get back to the fundamentals of profit first, and it'll really, really, really help you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you that this advice from Paul isn't just something he's talking about because he wants to teach you. It's how he lives. I remember on a coaching call, getting on a call with you and saying, here's all the things that I cut since our last call. We've lost some people. We've had some turnover. I don't anticipate there's not enough daily cash flow coming in. And so this marketing thing's gone. This marketing thing's gone. This thing is gone. And you cut them out. It didn't mean they were gone forever. It just means that you changed the way you do business until you fixed what was causing the cash to go down. I watched you do it, and it was really interesting to me how disciplined you were with it. It wasn't emotional. It was a matter of fact. It was just like, no, this is what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, you just have to jump in and face your financials head on. Everything will always change. Some days are going to be great. Some decades are going to be great. Other times things are going to surprise you. So that's all right. That's life.
Right. Well, what a fun conversation today. You know, talking about profitability and accounting can be dry and not have a lot of energy to it. But I want you to know that I've learned from you today, and I appreciate you sharing with our audience. On behalf of all of us at Workman Success Systems, thanks for being part of our family, Paul. We cherish our friendship, and we're glad you're part of our family. And thanks for the impact and the difference you're making in everybody's lives that you touch.
Thanks, Earl. It's always a pleasure. I really enjoy it, and I learn from everyone in the Workman system every day. So,
well, I promise you, this is going to get a lot of shares. There's a lot of matter of fact, we've had people commenting that they're going to go share this video with their spouse because they're in charge of the money. So you're gonna start and stop a lot of stress in people's lives if they listen to the principles that are taught here. You mentioned giving away some systems. Is there a way they can download a system?
Absolutely. So I put together a nice outline that describes all of this. So if you will email me at paulw@workmansuccesssystems.com, I'll send that to you so you can share it with your family and your friends. And anytime you have questions, you can call me too. I'm happy to share. But yeah, let's put financial intelligence back in the world, and let's make our heroes that own businesses profitable and reward them for all the hard work. You definitely deserve it.
Well, thank you. And lots of thanks to the people on our group. Appreciate you being here. Continued success. And here's to a COVID-free rest of the year. Let's get safe. See you, Paul.
All right, take care, Earl.